calculations always work. That doesn't work. Really.
Randy. You're going to speak? You're not going to speak. Okay. Ed, the very southern man? Well, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. It's not really a happy Sunday, but Sunday. My name's Rabbi Lauren Cohn, and I am a rabbi. I am not the rabbi at Congregation Beit Chaverim, but I am happy to be helping. First of all, one thing you're going to need to remember, first of all, everyone silence your phones, so we don't have that. And in order for all the many people on Zoom to hear, if you come up and you say something, you need to speak into either one of these microphones. Okay, I understand there are some people who have never been in a synagogue before. I'm not going to make you raise your hands, but please take a deep breath because everything's going to be okay. There is nothing you can do that will be deemed disrespectful or anything but what we want you to do. You're here because you are important to Vance, and you are important to Vance's family, and you're important to this congregation, and so you're here. So when we get to a particular prayer, you will see both, if you have it in the program, and then there are also other copies which we will be taking with us to the cemetery. This is the mourner's Kaddish, and it is for all of those who are here while Vance is gone. So that includes all of you. So if you want to practice a little reading the phonetics, that'd be good, so that when we get to the cemetery as a community, we can all say this together. We're going to start with something called a nigun, which is just kind of like a lie. I'm going to teach it to you, and then you'll sing it back to me, right? Okay. Lie, 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 lie. Try that. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. As I said, I am Rabbi Lauren Cohn, and I did not know Vance. And I say this at every funeral that I do when I don't know the person, but this time I really mean it. I wish I had. He was gobsmacked, an amazing person who did amazing things from start to finish. And I am honored to be here with his family and all of you, honoring his life in his memory. By all accounts, he was an amazing man, and I would even venture to say a Renaissance man. And I looked it up, and he fits every definition of a Renaissance man. I also said this, that I don't usually like to talk to the people on the plane that I'm sitting next to, but if I had had Vance sitting next to me on a plane, I would have talked his ear off, and I would have been so, I would have come away with a lasting memory of sharing these stories with this amazing person. We're going to do two things here today. One is that we are going to remember the life of your father, your grandfather, your father-in-law. Where's she go? Where's your mom? Oh, there she is. And former partner. We are all here grieving with you. Andreas, Daniela, Evie. So together we're going to fill two primary obligations in Jewish tradition. First, we are going to kavod hamet, which is honor Vance's life with eulogy and memory. And then second, nichum avelum, comforting his family and dear friends who grieve their loss. We mourn with all of you here today, and also the congregation, because I know that he was a very thoughtful, contributing member as well. I'm going to sing a song now. It might sound a little familiar, a little bit like the nigun I sang before. Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa enai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. As we gather, we feel tremendous grief in a world that is darkened by his absence. We grieve because we miss Vance. We remember a father, a grandfather, a father-in-law, a brother, a once husband. In moments of grief, we seek solace and comfort and wisdom and understanding, turning to poetry and the Psalms of Jewish tradition. The truths of the human condition stand the test of time. And so the psalmist spoke through imagery and metaphor, offering us the expansiveness of green pastures, the quiet of still waters, a cup overflowing with the sweetness of life, and the comfort of being led to safety by a shepherd. Psalm 15. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai mi yagor be'ohalecha mi yisachem benar kodshecha. God, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell on your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts. Psalm 16. I bless the Eternal who has guided me. My conscience admonishes me at night. I am ever mindful of the Eternal's presence. God is at my right hand. I shall never be shaken. So my heart rejoices, my whole being exults, and my body rests secure in your presence is pure, perfect joy. Delights are ever in your hand. Psalm 23. Adonai roi la'oikshar bana'avot deshe yabartziani. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. I believe that Vance had converted to Judaism like a few years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, before the pandemic. And we are so very glad he did. When it came time to pick his Hebrew name, my understanding is that he chose the name Nachshon. And Nachshon was Moses' brother's brother-in-law. But that's not the important part. The important part is that when the Israelites finally were freed from Egypt and they got to the Sea of Reeds, God split the sea and everyone just stood there, the 600,000 people, because they didn't know what to do, except for one guy. And his name was Nachshon. And we don't even know if he could swim. He might not have been a swimmer, but he jumped in. And that, to me, is the perfect Hebrew name for Vance, because as you will hear, he jumped in even when he didn't know what was happening. He jumped in when he did know what was happening. He jumped in to follow others, and the name fits him perfectly. I'm now going to invite his children to come up because they're going to speak more beautifully or eloquently than anything I could ever say about him. So, Andres, you're coming first? Sure. Or are you coming together? And just remember to speak into the microphone.
Speak into the mic, all right. So at the last minute I put together a PowerPoint because I wasn't able to figure out what to say, so I figured I would just kind of muse on some of the memories I've had with him as a father. I guess just every few seconds we can go through this, but here we are, it's me and my dad and my sister. This is in Mexico. Some of the memories I have from him, especially at this age, one of the core memories I have is playing a game where, I'm sorry, I was speaking to the microphone. He would be on the bed, we had a big bed, and he would be the big daddy animal, and my sister would be the little baby animal. And I would be the little hunter, and I'd be running around the bed trying to grab my sister. And I remember it being so much fun. It was just so exciting. And he was a pretty good daddy animal. He was menacing in a fatherly way. It was great. Every few seconds, yeah, thank you. But here we are, this is going to go throughout, our entire lives. Here with Cravey Drive, and one of his favorite hobbies was fishing, and I never, at the time, as a kid, truly understood how much he loved fishing. But as I was looking through photos, I realized that I had a lot of fishing, and another core memory was going to a trout farm. I believe it's north of here. We would go there quite often, and it's not really the kind of fishing my dad would do. It's stocked with trout, so you just kind of throw your line in and you catch something immediately. But our life with Dad was a lot of activities, exploring a lot of things, camping, traveling, learning so much. Throughout my life, as we all do, we go through a lot of transitions, and as we discover ourselves, and my dad was always there for me. Every time I found myself in a weird life stage, whether I got into this philosophical stage where I was into anarchism and all these other philosophical philosophies, and my dad would support me through it all. He was never judgmental about it. He would always send me things to read. I remember this is more of a personal memory, I guess, but at Auburn, when I was starting out college, I was having such a difficult time. And it's kind of funny for me to have a core memory be one in a parking lot, but I was struggling so much, and he had driven out to Auburn, and he and I were just walking in a parking lot outside of my apartment complex, and he was just talking to me. And that was it. I really needed the help, and he was there. Clearly it was an important moment because we were just talking in a parking lot. But this photo here is in Ecuador, and I think that was in Missouri. We traveled the world with my dad and my mom. We did that as a family. Every summer we would go somewhere new, somewhere international. There were 2 summers in particular which were kind of exciting, when my dad was tracking down his ancestry, and this is actually what led to his discovery that his father was Jewish. The story that he told me was that he was talking to one of his uncles right before we were going to go to Austria, because our last name is Dietz. And right before we left, his uncle told him, "Vance, you're wasting your time going to Austria, because we're not the Dietzes from Austria, we're the Toplitskys from, I believe, is it Belarus or Ukraine? Ukraine." So I don't remember how we worked it out, but we ended up doing a trip to Ukraine and Belarus at the time, because my dad's mother's family comes from Belarus, right? Yeah. And that started the journey for my dad, which led to his conversion, which I believe was in 2017. My sister and I were present for I believe it's called the mikvah, and Smargon, I believe, is in Belarus, right, Mom? Yeah, it was in Belarus. So our life with him was traveling, a lot of outdoor activities, camping, hiking, the Grand Canyon. I didn't appreciate it at the time. My dad was amazed by it, but I didn't appreciate it at the time. Yeah. And I have another anecdote, which I don't think is as funny outside of my mind as it is for me, but he also liked hunting. He loved hunting. I'm not sure I'll be able to convey the humor of it, but I'm going to try. So he and I were hunting at dusk, and he liked gadgets. He had the thermal vision and night vision. And he and I were out hunting together, and I had the night vision, I believe, and he had the thermal vision, and we were crawling through at the edge of a field trying to get up to our prey. And this isn't going to convey, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I think the humor was that we all had these really fancy gadgets to see at dusk, and I saw something. I said, "Dad, I see it." And he's like, "Where?" And I'm like, It's just the fact that I had night vision, he had thermal vision, we're at dusk, and we weren't coordinating, I don't know. By the way, he ruined that hunt for me because he got too excited and he went out too far into the field, so that was that. And at the end of his life, he still continued doing everything he loved to do. I'm sure you saw some of the photos here. He had hobbies. He was a beekeeper for as long as he could. He got into tattooing. He never really followed through with it, but he did a lot of practicing. A lot of practicing on grapefruits and oranges, and he was going to do my first tattoo, but he was never confident enough to do it. Although he did do my first piercing, my left piercing. And he scared me right after he did it because he said he did the wrong side. And he said that on purpose. He just, This photo is from our trip to Israel. My sister and I went with him, and that was an incredibly moving experience for me. Even as a secular individual, there is something magical about being in Israel. And I'm so happy that I got to do that with my dad and my sister. One day I'd like to go back with our family but there's some other hobbies, foraging for mushrooms, catfishing, which he loves. I hate because they're slimy, but they're fun to fish, I'll admit that, but they're, And then he was a falconer too. And he kept doing that for as long as he could. And then here we have the last few slides are him with Evie, who's sitting over here. I think you might have seen me lifting her over a chair. And he truly loved her, and she loved him. That's her Saba. And I wish he was here to spend more time with her. And then this very last photo, I'll end with this last one here. It's this first one you saw, but it's also, the next slide, please. That's us in Mexico, and this is in Tampa this year with my dad. That's the last trip I did with him. We did it as a family. But that's him and his kids grown up. So thank you, everybody.
All right. I don't know how you got through any of that, so I'm going to have Sabrina and Veen come up here and help me. I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone for being here. It just brings me so much joy and fills my heart with gratitude to see so many of you here and on Zoom today to honor my dad. Just know that each of you represent a piece of his extraordinary life, and it's a comfort to know how deeply he was loved by so many. Okay. My father was one of my closest confidants and a wonderful role model. He was many things to many people, but one thing no one could ever deny is that he was an exceptional father. To have had a father as devoted and loving as he was, it's a gift and at the same time a sorrow, because losing someone so wonderful feels insurmountable. But I'm so incredibly grateful that I knew every day of my life how much he loved me, how proud he was, and how much he believed in me. And of course, the same goes for Andres as well. My dad dedicated his life to public health, a calling that led him across the world, where he met, learned from, and helped so many people from so many cultures. He brought compassion, respect, and kindness everywhere he went, leaving behind a legacy that reaches far beyond our family. He gave his life to bettering the lives of others, and he did so humbly with a heart full of empathy. When I moved to Alaska, it was one of the biggest leaps I'd taken, and that move brought my dad and me closer than ever. He made so many trips to visit, and each time we built memories that I will carry with me forever. I'll always be grateful for those long conversations, the quiet moments spent together, and the laughter we shared. I think he selfishly loved that I went to Alaska because he wanted to be there. For the fishing, yeah. He was a true outdoorsman. Now, whenever I step outside and feel the warmth of the sun, see a bee buzzing by, or hear an owl at night, I feel his presence with me, my daddy's sweet spirit. These moments will always remind me of him, of his joy in nature, and his sense of peace there. If I could, I would do anything to bring him back. His passing has left a space in my heart that feels impossible to fill. And I know it will take years, maybe a lifetime, to ease this ache. But I take comfort in knowing that my dad's kindness, his laughter, his curiosity, and his wisdom will always live on through the love he gave to all of us. This is really pretty. In my dad's final days in the ICU, I felt him trying so hard to communicate with me. He would gesture to write, but he was too weak to hold the pen on the whiteboard I brought. He would tap my hand, his eyes changing as he tried to express something. Yet intubation had taken his voice. I kept telling him, "Dad, talk to me in my dreams." One night before bed, I felt his presence with me, and I was moved to write a little poem. My dad always loved poetry, though he could never quite get me into it. So it felt especially meaningful to capture those feelings and those words he couldn't say. He passed away 3 days later. And this is the poem. Dad, do you hear me in your dreams? I imagine you hear turkey calls and the sounds of fishing with your friends. I bet you hear those owls at night, but do you hear me in your dreams? I imagine you hear sweet Evie's voice and the hum of your fish tanks buzzing. I bet you even hear your kite soaring high in the wind. But do you hear me in your dreams? Do you hear me saying, "I love you, Daddy"? Do you hear me making jokes? I bet you'd call me a smartass. Then turn back to your football game. I hope you hear me in your dreams, Daddy, because all I do is miss you. I hear you calling me Daniela Local whenever I call to check on you. I hear you calling me sweetie. And my whole world brightens. Please hear me in your dreams, Daddy, so I know that you're okay. I love you more than you'll ever know, and every night I'll tell you so in our dreams. So anyway, here's to my sweet, loyal, loving, intelligent dad. May he rest in peace, surrounded by the beauty he loved so much. Thank you. You guys cried just as much as me.
I'm now going to open it up to let a few others speak, but I'm going to share something I learned when I went to a funeral at an African-American church in Alabama. The minister says, 2 minutes, and he makes you stick to that. So, if you'd like to come up, we would love to have you come up and talk about Vance, but remember, just 2 minutes. I believe we have someone on our way up first. I understand you speak slowly, so I'm going to give you a little bit of grace.
She said 2 minutes, and how does someone born and raised in the South who speaks very slowly even get past their introduction? My name is Jim Mize. Vance and I were pals for 40 years or more. We spent a lot of time together, and if I can find it, see why it takes more than 2 minutes? I got it?
Do you want some water?
No. I'd like to start out with a portion of a poem written by Linda Ellis. It was The Dash. And it goes something like this. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on our headstone from beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. The dash between those years. Vance has been my friend for 40 years, as I mentioned. We have spent countless hours together driving to someplace in Georgia in pursuit of wild pigs, driving to someplace in Tennessee in pursuit of big catfish. You saw a picture. Not to mention staying up real late at night, solving the problems of the world. Friends like that take time. They don't happen very often. And if you have such a friend, treasure them. I wanted to speak to a couple things about Vance. He was an incredibly generous man. He gave away significant amounts of money and time to the homeless and to refugee kids as well as family members. He was a loving father. I can't remember a single trip that we took that he and Daniela and Andres weren't kicking texts back and forth or calling, and we had things to do. We didn't have time for that. But he found the time. Vance was sometimes troubled over the wars that seem so easily started, but never there's a clear way out, despite increasing costs in human lives and suffering. He loved his country, and I have to say this, call it like I see it. He found it incredibly hard to accept that a tyrant might return to office, as do I. Vance couldn't sing, though he tried. And tried some more. In the shower, in the truck, and on my boat whenever the fish weren't biting. He had a great sense of humor and could laugh at himself and his mistakes, such as backing a boat trailer. Don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's difficult. His efforts resulted in thousands in damage to my truck. When I handed him the repair bill, he cowboyed up and said, I've got it covered. But when I handed it to him, his comment was, why should I have to pay for an entire bumper since I only tore half of it off? I folded this, now I can't unfold it. All right, I got one more little insight. In the movie Open Range, I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, with Robert Duvall and Kevin Costner. Duvall's character had a line that he spoke just before the shootout with the bad guys, and it resonated with me, and I am repeating it. He said, "We are all travelers in this world, from the sweet grass to the packing house, from birth till death, we travel between the two eternities." Vance, you traveled well, your dash is done.
Who wants to follow that? Does anybody? Yes, sir, come on up.
Good afternoon. Hey, hi everyone. My name is Reginald Mason, and I've been a friend of Vance's for a long time. More in the teens, not as much in the 20s, but we spent a lot of time together. Our kids went to the same school, all grown up now. So Vance loved alligator snapper turtles. Why would you love an alligator snapper? They're huge. They can be hundreds of pounds. But they're incredibly strong and generally move very slowly. But when they need to be, they're very quick and decisive. And I think we shared our love of turtles and alligator snappers. And Vance was a little bit of an alligator snapper. But really what I wanted to say, the most important thing is my pastor once told me that, we want to be a peculiar people. And some people may think the word peculiar is negative, but I view it as a positive. Vance was a peculiar person. He was a different person. He was not a run-of-the-mill person. And that peculiarity is something that I loved about him and that I seek. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Goldsmith, and I'm a longtime member of CBH, the congregation here. And I originally, and I'll be honest with you, in many ways I like funerals. You get to know someone through a funeral, and wow, Vance was just a remarkable, multifaceted guy I didn't know, and I'm going to carry him in my heart and in my thoughts. And I just feel like I know him so much better. And that's great, because that's how someone lives long-term in my mind, is how we carry them in our hearts. So about 3 years ago, the congregation started supporting, there he is over there, Winston, started supporting an Afghan family. And now, 3 years later, there's a small group of us that still see them regularly, and we did this through New American Pathways. And somewhere in the last couple of years, I was doing a refugee Shabbos program, and I started seeing Vance just kind of connected to all these New American Pathway things that the community, both our community and larger, was doing. New American Pathways is a refugee organization, sorry. So Vance and I started getting closer by sharing, certain activities and conversation, and Winston has joined us, who is one of the leaders of the education program. And this summer I was there once a week for a summer camp program for elementary and middle school people. And Vance, I learned, Winston, has he been there 2 years? Over 2 years, every day? Every other day at the after-school program for middle schoolers. So this summer during camp, they were like, Vance, and you just see him walking around with these kids and they're great buddies. And like when he sees you, his little face just lights up. And he was so happy to be with them. So I wanted to share that part and let you know, thank you for sharing. And I take him better known in my heart. Thank you.
I didn't prepare anything, and I'm going to talk from my heart. Vance was the first person when I came to CDC and Freeway Park, was the first person I met. And he looked at he heard me and he said, "What's my accent?" And I said, "I'm from Israel. I've been here 46 years." And there's a lot of things. We became friends. My kids babysitted Andre and Daniela, and we shared. Actually, the last time we lived quite a distance, but almost every week we spent time on the phone and we shared everything. And last time I saw him was my husband's 81st birthday. I have this wonderful picture. But I wanted to share the aspect, what he shared, the journey that brought Vance to convert to Judaism was amazing, and an amazing story about his life and upbringing, which is really something very unique. And also the way he sincerely really learned, and I have a degree, my first degree is history. So the knowledge, and he read so many books, and the kids saw all the books, was really amazing, and we could share a lot of, and he was so sincere about this, and so I remember the trip to Israel meant he kept, one of his wishes was to come back again. He really wanted to go again to Israel, and he was so involved and so proud to become a Jewish. I remember that he also liked to go to Jackie all the holidays to celebrate. And if he didn't go, he took all this special food for the holiday. He would read the prayer. He would tell me what I prepared to do. And he was so excited to celebrate with other people. And his journey, since I have 2 minutes, I cannot go to it, was really amazing, sincere, and very unique, very, very unique. And, you know, we're all going to miss him. I miss our weekly calls, and how he is excited to go on this trip, and I can go on. So, thank you.
I will preface this by saying that I did not know your dad very well. I am also a new member to CBH, and like him on a conversion path, or like he was on a conversion path. I did not realize before that our paths had actually crossed twice. One of the first jobs I had here in Atlanta was as a program manager and coordinator for the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at CDC. I got to work with Walt Orenstein. I got to work with Larry Pickering. I did not get to work with Vance, and I regret that. Having come here, we met again, and I just wanted to let everyone know that what I saw of him, every word he spoke was toward justice and toward equity. I mean, even the ands and the thes, they were well placed, and they were intentional. And I wanted to say, I hold him in my heart as I go toward my own conversion. And I also would like to say that no matter whether you sing badly, what does matter is that your voice is heard, and his voice was heard, and it will be. Thank you.
He certainly was amazing, sincere, and very unique. In Judaism, when a person dies, we say, may his memory be a blessing. And what this means is that every time you think about your dad, you see a mushroom. You see someone doing a falconing thing. Can you do a falconing thing? I don't know. Every time you see him or remember him, his memory lives on, because grief is just love persevering. So when you see someone fishing or foraging for a mushroom, or when you sit down for a real gourmet meal, Or when you read a poem you don't understand that you wish you could explain? Or when people talk about the 60s in San Francisco and the hippies of Haight-Ashbury, and he was one of them? Or when you see someone doing an act of kindness, of living and respecting that everyone is created in God's image, because it certainly seemed like that's what your father spent his life doing. Every time anyone remembers Vance, even a song he didn't like or a joke he wasn't good at telling, his memory lives on. And so that's the way we get comforted, by remembering. So I'd like to just take a few moments and just have each of you think about the essence of what you remember Vance to be. Close your eyes just for a few minutes. And now I want you to know that in the next few weeks, these memories that make your nose twitch so you cry because you miss him will in a few months or a few years make you smile because you remember him and are grateful for the time you had with him. Whatever it is that makes you think of Vance, think of it now. Try to kind of stick it away so you can recall it when you need to. And at this time, please rise for the El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shomchein Bemromim, Hamse Menucha Nechona Tachat, Al Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Hutorim, Kezohar Harakia Nazhirim, Et Nishmat Nakshon Ben Avraham Besara, Shahalak La'alamo, Ba'al Ha'arachamim, Yaztir HaBaseter Kanfa La'olamim, Vayitzor Vitzor Hakamim Et Nishmata, Adonaihu Nachalata, Vantunach, B'Shalom, Amashkava, V'Namar, Amen. God full of mercy, who dwells above, give rest on the wings of the divine presence amongst the holy, pure and glorious, who shine like the sky, to the soul of Vance Jeffrey Dietz, son of Stephanie and Mortimer, for whom prayer was offered in the memory of his soul. Therefore, the merciful one will protect his soul forever and will merge his soul with eternal life. God is his heritage, and he shall rest peacefully at his lying place. And together we say, Amen. Please be seated. So for those of you who can, we're going to go now to the cemetery. Are there directions? They're on the back. Also, by the way, very important on the back, please look where it says donation information on the last page. You will truly honor Vance's life and memory by donating to one of these causes that he loves so much. Yes. Yeah. Come.
So, there was a bit of a logistical mix-up when we were planning things, so we didn't have time to do the burial after this ceremony, so we had to do the burial before. So we will be having a graveside service for those who would like to attend to say the Mourner's Kaddish. Yeah.
So what we did was we kindly, we tucked Vance in, and then we're gonna come back and make sure he's asleep. So we would love for all of you to join us. And when we get to the cemetery, if you'll make 2 lines so that the family can pass through and feel like their community is supporting and protecting them. Any other things I need to say? Thank you all for coming. Yes?
Food outside, yeah. There's food outside. And after the graveyard service, we're going to be gathering at my mother's house. I believe that, sorry, it should be on the invitation that we send out. If not, I'll be out front to make sure everybody has the addresses. It's there? Yeah, okay.
So why don't we say we will all reconvene, can we say 2:30? That gives everyone time to grab a nosh and get into the cemetery? Okay. And we will see you there. Please drive carefully.